Content warning. The following show contains smoking, some potty mouth language, discussions of fictitious violence, and some things that some folks would consider a hot take, but really, we're just having a conversation. But that being said, viewer discretion is advised. You're really going to go all the way there, huh? Well, I just figured I'd let them know. Either way, you should probably start the music. Yeah, that's a good point. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing out there today? I am Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, and I am coming at you from the Wizard's Tower. And oh my God, it's hot! It is so hot. I've got 3 sources of air coming in to the studio today because seriously, like mostly everyone in my neighborhood is Latino nowadays, and I say nowadays because I've been here since 1984, so demographics change. And I opened up the door, and the first thing I heard was "Ay chinga, muy caliente," and I'm like, okay, wow, that's a really big one out there. So now that we know that it's super hot, I want to welcome you guys to the dark side of the room. This is the show where we talk about games and playing stuff and learning things and really taking a look at our hobbies and stuff and applying them to our life. Oh my God, what life skills? Who'd have thought that you can get that kind of thing out of playing games and learning stuff? Oh yeah, everybody who plays games and learning stuff, mom. But anyway, now that we're going on that, we have a relatively fun show for you today because I gotta take a break from learning the Warhammers, the 40K. It feels like I've been at this for 40,000 hours, but I have not been at this. But if you guys got any questions or anything like that, feel free to hit me up at backinthedeck@gmail.com, BACKINTHEDECK @gmail.com. You can also hit me, I don't know, hit me up on all the social medias and all that stuff. And you can hit me up on the TikTok and the Facebook and all that jazz. So, with all that being said, oh my God, it is so hot. It is so quiet. It is out there. Seriously. It is super hot today. I am tired. I did, fortunately, have the privilege of being able to sit down with one of my ride or dies last night to play some Combat Patrol, and that was very, very cool. At least, we sort of played Combat Patrol because we fell into the old gamer's trap. And again, how can I put this? Part of gaming culture, especially when it comes to complicated games. This is something that I learned a while ago with a game called War Machine from Privateer Press. Now, that was one of my favorite tabletop minis games, and it was the main one that I played for a while, primarily because the other people in my gaming group didn't want to play anything else. But Param from One Page Rules said it best. All right. And Param is the CEO of One Page Rules that does Grimdark Future and all the other games I simp over. And yeah, I'm owning that. When asked why he set up his game mechanics in one way, he said to keep it simple because um, people play simple games, but they talk about complicated ones. And so, as you guys know, I've been hitting the Warhammer 40K really, really hard to learn how to play the game, try to get some sample games in. I do plan on teaching one or two people how to play, hopefully soon. But as you guys know, I live in LA, it's a company town, and I do want to participate in the strikes for the entertainment industry. Not because I'm trying to suck up to anybody in the union, but if these people get their way, half of the industry is gone. Okay, and I'm talking makeup artist, which also counts as special effects, caterers, wardrobe. I mean, just so many people whose names are in the credits will no longer be there, and all those people are going to have to hit the regular job market even harder than they're already doing it. And when you go to college to learn something or spend 20 or 30 years in a field and then that field just dries up and you're left with nothing else, that sucks. That really, really sucks for everybody. I want to put out there, just to start off the show, I owe one of our main deckers a major apology. Um, though I did not realize that one of the jokes I tell hit them kind of personally on a sore spot that I didn't know about, it still impacted them negatively, and that is not what I want to do. So, thank you for letting me know, and I apologize for the times that I've done it, and I won't be doing it again in the future. Okay, that's real talk. It's really messed up because, it turns out one of the types of jokes that I tell about a specific decker hit them in the same way people telling black jokes hit me, and that's not cool. All right, so that's a real thing that's out there, and yeah, so that's a real thing. Again, at Back in the Deck, y'all know I'm all about transparency, and I make it very clear when I mess up and I know about it, I got to set that type of stuff right. All right. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things that are out there. The Decker knows who they are, and that is all that I need to say about it in a public forum. So my bad. I won't be doing it again. Thank you for letting me know. So yeah. So on that one, let's see. We already got a question. Oh, how long is the VOD today? Same as always, from 3 p.m. Pacific to 4 p.m. Pacific. Um, so, like I was saying, I need to take a break from talking about 40K because as much as turning this whole channel into a Games Workshop analysis or critique and all that stuff channel would boost my numbers, that's not what I want. All right, I want to talk about games and life and all that other stuff, not a game or a company, because there are hundreds out there and a lot of them deserve a little shine as well. So taking a break. I'm taking a break from 40K, at least for the next few days. All right, my new player journey needs to slow down. All right, because this is a very important thing when it comes to learning and growing. And this is something that not a lot of folks have put out there in my lifetime, at least. And when I say that, I was born in the 1970s, which means I grew up in the 80s and I grew up in the 90s, and I was an adult by the 21st century, okay? I was like 24 or something come 9/11. So, with that being said, I grew up in a culture of cramming, in a culture of if you got time enough to lean, you got time enough to clean. Any sort of downtime was looked at with shame. All right. It was just like, no, you're not supposed to rest. You're not rich yet. You're not all, just hustle, hustle. And the fact is, in the United States of America, in the year of our mythologies 2023, it has gotten worse. Oh my god. Seriously, it's almost like if you take a break from something, it's looked at as a character flaw. But I tend to look at other things from different points of view. Hey, Xanathades, ahoy, ahoy, ahoy. Um, Hang on. Mm, yeah, there's just, I tend to look at things from another point of view, such as who is casting down the shame? And most of the time, it's bosses who want you to work for them harder and more for less money, or it's parents and grandparents that come from a time where working hard and working yourself today was actually useful. But welcome to the 21st century where it's just the Wild West all the time. So, when I started looking at how much time I was dedicating to 40K, because it's not just the time that I'm on this screen, I would say I was putting in almost as many hours in 40K as most people would do with their day job, and not because I was passionate about it. I do have kind of a flavor of neurospice. Let's call it brain cardamom. To where once I get started at something, I just don't stop, and I'm like, nope, gotta slow it down, because a really important thing, and this is something. Hang on. No greeting today? What do you mean? Oh, because I didn't say what's up to you personally. Yeah, what's going on? So as I said, um, if any of you guys have ever done anything involving fitness or had a personal trainer or even seen instructional videos on YouTube about that kind of stuff. Um um the biggest thing on that is every personal trainer, sensei, person like that will tell you that resting is one of the most important parts to growth. Okay. Now, I come from a culture that makes it very clear there's no such thing as growth without pain, and it's true. But and like if you're working out all the time, you're going to be sore. It's just a thing. In the 80s, they'd say no pain, no gain, whatever. However, rest is also important. Now, biochemically, when you're working out, trying to get stronger, trying to get pumped, you're trying to get to that Chad level. You're tearing apart your muscle fibers, and then you go to sleep, and your muscle fibers come on back. You heal while you're resting. You don't heal while you're continuously doing damage. um, and learning is the same way. Okay, when you're learning, you're taking in all this information in your brain, but then you got to let your brain rest from that information in order to organize it. All right. Um, if you're new to gaming or new to tabletop gaming, it's the equivalent of heading out to your friendly local gaming store or hitting Amazon and buying every single book for the role playing game that you want to learn before you've even read the main book, like the player's manual or the DM's guide. You got all that stuff there, and then it can get overwhelming and all that other stuff. Um, you know, and so yeah, that's a really big thing. So I'm practicing what I preach, and I'm taking my time off of 40K to let some of these rules things sink in and all that stuff. My ride or die came over last night, and he brought me some 3D printer resin, which was kind of cool, so I can finish out the Tyranid Combat Patrol proxy box. And I'm actually doing that right now. It's going to be another couple of hours, but yeah. So I can get those models made and glued, and I'll be good. But then I'm going to take some time and play some Dead Zone. I'm going to play some Dead Zone, which, is a game I actually enjoy a little bit more than I enjoy 40K so far. Another skirmish game. It's by Mantix Games. We've talked about this before. I like the setting a lot better, and I actually like the gameplay better. specifically because I like D8s and I like exploding dice. That's fun to me. Um, but as I said in the notification, one of the most important parts of growing is rest. Now, stuff is up in the air. The entertainment industry has become the wild, wild west. Um, let's see here. What is this? What is my opinion on so many video games now having tabletop RPG and wargaming adaptations? Well, real talk on that. Um, I both see the wisdom in it and I appreciate it. And this is why. A lot of video games use mechanics that were tried and tested on the tabletop in the first place. As you guys know, on my Steam account, and I haven't actually played for a little while, but I've got the original Gate games for the PC. Okay, and I really dig that because the Baldur's Gate engine was essentially a virtual DM for a story, and it was kind of cool. I like that. And I watched an old friend of mine back in 2001 play through Torment. One of the first, I guess, exposures to Forgotten Realms I ever had was the PC game. So I want to make it clear, by the way, though Back in the Deck doesn't cover video games, it's not because we don't like them. It's because I was priced out of the console wars back at PlayStation 2. And I'm here, and I have a PC that's strong enough to run things because it's an editing thing. However, if I'm playing video games on my studio computer, that means I'm not editing videos. So there was a choice I had to make, and I chose the video content. Now, when I say that, I say this. The video game franchises that are getting RPGs and tabletop war games, I'm with it, okay? Gone are the days of Pac-Man and Galaga, okay? Sometimes I miss those days because I like feeding machines my quarters over and over again. But ever since the JRPG hit the scene and fighting games had plots, and I'm talking all the way back at Kung Fu, where you're fighting to save the girl, to Street Fighter and all that stuff. Hang on. Yeah, Moonbuggy. Oh man, you were so pulling those nostalgia strings, Neon. Yeah, Moonbuggy for the Apple IIc. Wow. Um, you know, they had stories, but really not stories that you could see on the screen. But ever since those days, way, way, way back, where you actually cared about the story, I think the biggest thing in the biggest games that introduced stories to most people in the United States, as far as video games went, was Super Mario Brothers and The Legend of Zelda. That was, I know as a kid, the first time I was like, whoa, wait a second. That's a recurring character. I've got a thing, and not just, I hit the thing over and over again, but, they didn't exactly have decision gates, but they kind of had decision gates, but not quite. So, yeah, bad dudes, right? Yeah, this is becoming a thing. Um, so yeah, the real talk on all that is the fact that video games now are so complex with story and characters. They're about creating an entire world. And for people that don't have consoles or don't use their computers to play video games and like tabletop things, yeah, I think it's great. When I tell people about tabletop RPGs, I tell them whatever popular property that you can think of, there's probably an RPG for it. Um, so it's real talk. I mean that is real talk. When I was working at a game store back in 2003, I saw Farscape, Doctor Who. Um, Firefly was just coming out, so the Serenity game hadn't been there, but all the different iterations of the Star Trek RPG, all the different iterations of Star Wars RPG properties, and at this time, yeah, also Babylon 5. Um, I was really into Vampire the Masquerade at the time. And one of the things I noticed is with modern role playing games, folks are always, always trying to adapt their favorite properties into the game structure. So the fact, excuse me, that these properties are just releasing stuff means that you could just go out and buy the Babylon 5 role playing game. Like, one of the things I loved, and I went to look for it when I first started playing one page rules, I remember the tabletop war game for Starship Troopers that came out back in 2003. Okay, I remember that game, and I'm like, wow, this comes with a lot of bugs. You know, this was when board games were just making that transition from meeples to miniatures. Okay, and if you guys want to know what a meeple is, just pick up most board games, especially most board games from the 20th century. The closest thing to miniatures, any board game that I remember having was Monopoly, where they actually had those miniatures, and everyone used to fight over the car. But meeples are the little people-shaped things like you get in the game of Life, or Sorry, or Trouble with their Pop-O-Matic bubble. But when they started going over, because production costs for miniatures started dropping, and people started being willing to pay a little bit more for their video games, now you got, you still have like the game mechanics of Risks that have their Roman numeral meeples, but you get Zombicide, and um, um, Fallout Wasteland Warfare, which is debatable if it's a tabletop minis game or a board game, you know. And I really like that graying of the lines. I really do. Primarily because I like, what's the term I'm looking for? Oh, yeah. I really like having proxies. I really do. I love, since I play so many model agnostic games, um, I like the idea of being able to say grab my character that I bought before I started 3D printing, getting my wizard that I bought from Reaper for $3 and making up my Stargrave or my Frostgrave campaign, and then pulling a bunch of zombies, from a Zombicide game. Um, so honestly, I really think it's a good idea because a lot of people want to be involved in the property, but like, may not actually like the format, the medium that the property comes in. Let's take 40K for example. I saw a battle report for 10th edition. It did inspire me. Um, and real talk, and I mean this, one of the guys that was doing it hates tabletop wargaming. He just hates it. But he loves the video games and he loves reading the novels. And I'm like, yeah, that's the thing. Um, you know, and at the end of the day, what most games are come down to two different things, and that is the emotional connection or the emotional journey that we get on from the stories, or the emotional journey that we get on from the game mechanics that cause stories. Play on Tabletop, my favorite battle report channel, says dice tell stories, and I like that. I really do. I really like that because I'm used to hearing, man plans, God laughs, and I love randomization mechanics in everything that I do, because my life is kind of random. So, there is a correlation there. And so yeah, I really do dig that. Now, what I don't want, the major thing that I fear in regards to that stuff is when the property within one medium becomes necessary to interact with the other medium. All right. One of the things that I really, really noticed this with, which I didn't mind because I was so in love with the game itself, was Hero Clicks. When you played Hero Clicks way back in the day, like not a lot of people talk about Mage Knight. You know, it's not dead; it's still out there. But Mage Knight was the original game that used those mechanics with the colored system and have all the stats on the mini and everything pre-painted, and that was so cool. All right, that is so cool. But when they brought stuff into Hero Clicks and equated their mechanics to something that I actually had a personal connection to, i.e., comic books. Mm. Um, I was all into it. However, when they started releasing additional kits, I started noticing that, especially after I quit and I got back in and I got back in the Oreo cookie base time period. If you play Hero Clicks, you definitely understand. If not, that's a long explanation. But I definitely noticed that there were Clicks sets that were being released according to various story arcs in games or in comic books. So, like, I remember one set that was out when I was really passionate about it was called The War of Light. It was from DC Clicks and it was based on, or not The War of Light, The Brightest Day. And it was based on the Brightest Day, Blackest Night, and War of Light story arc from the Green Lanterns. So they had all the lantern cores and all of their constructs and all and all and all and all and all. It was great for the company because they were like, "Hey, give me more money, more money, more money. Come on, keep on giving me more money." Um, but it lends itself to power creep a lot. Now, properties that come out and say release a board game and stuff like that, I'm 100% there. One of my favorite board games is still Game of Thrones. Some people say that it's not modern enough, or you're starting to feel its age, and I get that. I definitely get that. But old don't mean bad. um, so I really do enjoy when you get the fantasy of interacting in a world that was a property in a different medium and then became a game. Now, how do I feel about it going the other direction? I'm cool. I'm cool. And I mean that. I'm cool with it. I grew up in a time where pop culture was not, I repeat, was not as prevalent as it has become. But Solar, what do you mean by that? I don't know. I might start feeling a little bit insulted. Just hang on. When I say it was not as prevalent back then as it is today, this is what I mean. Today, as soon as there's a property with the internet, you have an immediate community of people who like that start having the team mentality, excuse me, all over the world. Okay? So at any time, regardless of what you're into, you feel like you're part of a really big community. Or when I was growing up, we had TV. that was about it. You had TV and you had video games, but I'm talking back in like the NES and the Sega Genesis days. Because nobody had a Sega Master System, not within 20 miles of me. So, but you had the NES, you had the Genesis, and but mainly you had the TV. So whatever show was popular, was the one property that you could talk to everybody about in your area. Since I was a teenager in the 90s, the major things people watched were the comedies starring black people, the sitcoms and the sketch comedies. So we're talking Living Single, Martin, Cosby Show, Fresh Prince of Bel Air, and of course in Living Color. And that was where you knew, as soon as you got to school, you knew what people were going to be talking about. When you got to work, you knew what the what's it called, water cooler conversations were going to be, which was kind of cool. Um, but now there's just so much. But if you didn't have TV, you had small rectangular objects called books. And the big debate of my generation, okay, was the adaptation of the book will never add up to the reading of the book. The book will always be better. It's always better. Some people said it's better because their imagination was better than any special effects department. Some people said that it was always better because it's a book and books are sacred. Um, that was never really my experience. And I say never because when you deal with always, that means 100% of the time. And no, that wasn't the whole thing. But I've always appreciated mediums for what they were. Okay. I used to get into it with my ex all the time. Because they were really into musicals. I was not. Um, so when I was growing up, one of my favorite movies was Heathers. I loved that movie. I wanted to be Christian Slater because I was an angry adolescent who was really good with chemistry. However, when it was turned into a Broadway musical, I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling it. So that's a big thing. Cyber Drake brings up Johnny Mnemonic. Um, I read the Cyber Crash books. They were cool. I watched the movies. They were cool too. Now, there are certain things that every time you switch a medium, there are three things that come into it that I think people like debating because folks just want to be right. I mean, I don't really care. That's never been my thing. But those things are the things that make that medium quality, i.e., craftsmanship. Um, and then there is, um, well, I know a lot of intellectual snobs, okay? A lot of intellectual snobs. And when I say that, I mean, if there is an adaptation of a book or something from a different medium, they want a 100% reconstruction of the story as they read it and as they imagined it. And I'm like, yeah, I like movies more than I like reading. And I love reading, but I love movies more. Um, and that being said, I understand how to make movies a lot more than I understand how to write novels. Um, and they're completely different animals. Okay. One of my favorite examples is an adaptation that has really come back into public consciousness over the past 10 years was Starship Troopers. Okay. Starship Troopers, the movie, directed by Vanderhoven, was a satire in the classic sense on how fascism can creep up and take over a society. And the cinematic language of fascism before Starship Troopers was always dark and menacing. It had every other scene was based on the triumph of the will. Um, and it was always used as shorthands for the bad guy. Okay, I don't care if you're talking about the Empire from Star Wars or Scar from Lion King. Um, Soon as fascism pops up, fascism's bad. Okay. Um, and Starship Troopers showed a different side of it, because the humans in that movie were terrible. They were the bad guys. Okay, you can almost hear Billie Eilish and freaking um electronic music behind it going da 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 da. Yeah. Um yeah, Starship Troopers made fascism bright yellow. Now it's a bad orange tan. It's true. It's very true. Um and I thought that was a really interesting take. Now the book of Starship Troopers wasn't as fascist, but it had fascist undertones. But it was more about the life and commitment of a soldier. Okay? So they didn't really focus much on the propaganda, the political things, and the government was run similarly, but there wasn't as much propaganda. So it was a little bit more. But this is also coming from the same author that looked at religion as terrible and had a dude that was raised on a different planet come back, point out the problems of the world, and start a sex cult that gave people superpowers. So, books are fun. um, you know, now as far as adaptations go, I prefer book adaptations to television shows much better than I like book adaptations to movies. Only because most books are larger in scope and larger in scale than it's affordable to make a movie for. Okay? This is why Lord of the Rings took 3 movies and they still cut 30% of the story out of the movies. And real talk, those movies are still amazing. Oh my god, I wish the fandom for Lord of the Rings was as loud as the fandom for Star Wars. Because, dude, I mean, it's given a choice between the Tridge of Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, I will pick Lord of the Rings. That is where I'm at. So, yeah, the real talk about all that stuff is each medium in and of itself, I think is fine because I like the mediums of storytelling. Um, but I know a lot of people that hold strong on their own imagination and feel insulted when manufacturers of products don't adhere to what they imagined. Okay? I was talking with a friend of mine about Starship Troopers, and he was mad that they combined 4 characters into one, and I'm like, dude, they, um, when it comes to Starship Troopers, which I'm bringing up as the book adaptation because it is very, very, very specific and indicative of what I'm talking about on this. Because the 4 movies, and there were 4 movies on Starship Troopers, were almost in a completely different universe from the adaptation of the world from the books that was Starship Troopers Roughnecks, the Roughneck Chronicles, which was a cartoon that a lot of people have seen, but very few remember. I remember it coming on at like 6:30 in the morning, which I don't know why anybody runs cartoons that early, but yeah, it's true. The third Starship Troopers movie was horrendous, but I'm happy that Casper Van Dien found work. Um, but yeah, but the Roughneck Chronicles was much more in line with what the books were. And the reason they could do that was because it was adapted for television and it was animated. So they didn't have to worry about those pesky laws of physics that special effects departments have to take into consideration when they're not just trying to pull something off on film, but when they're trying to pull it off in a way that will look not believable, but entertaining. Okay. Um, and so yeah, that was a really really big thing. Um, So yeah, but as far as like, properties like board games being, or not board games, but video games that are being adapted to role playing games, dude, since I like role playing games, I'm all with it. Since I like tabletop war games, I'm all with it. Okay. Um, I will give you an example. Since most video games are based on tabletop RPGs, and I mean in their mechanics, okay? When you're getting a 20% increase from getting the widget that you had to go get from the one play, that 20% increase is based on something, and that really comes as a +1 weapon on a D20. Sorry, a +4 weapon on a D20. You get what I mean? Um, that right there, since a lot of video games that came out were based on second edition D&D, that's what it is. That's what it came out for. Um, and the real talk, okay, the real talk on that is, since the foundation is already there, it would be cool. What I like about RPG books based on popular properties is that it gives people a chance to do a little bit of fan fiction and explore the rest of the world that you don't see in the main properties. Like I remember when the Star Wars RPG, I'm not gonna say when it came out because I don't remember when it came out. I wasn't in the role playing games back then, but they released an edition around 2001, sometime between 2001 and 2003. Okay, I remember that very well. No, no, it was late 90s. They released it around 98, 99. And it was really cool because in that RPG, Jedi's were rare. So you got to explore the Star Wars universe as a bounty hunter, a smuggler, a pilot, just all these different things that let you explore that galaxy and interact with the aliens and stuff that were there. And I thought that's cool because that gives you, number one, I'm going to put this out there. If you guys like doing fan fiction, keep doing your fan fiction. Make your fan fiction as awesome as possible because all continuing fiction of an established property is fan fiction. Sorry to tell you. For you 40K players out there that read books from the Black Library, each one of those writers are doing fan fiction. It's just published and in canon. Same with Star Trek. Same with all comic books. Or should I say all popular comic books today, because Stan Lee and Jack Kirby are no longer with us. So every Fantastic Four book or X-Men book or Spider-Man book, because Steve Ditko's gone too, that's all fan fiction, guys. It really is. A fan of the property wrote a story for the property and it got picked up. That's really all it is. It's the fan fiction that made good. So keep doing your fan fiction. I am with that. And RPGs are a fantastic tool to hone the skills of a fanfic writer. They really are. Because if there's not if there's not an established planet for something that you want to do in a sci-fi RPG, you got to write it. If there's not a realm for something in your fantasy RPG, you got to write it. I mean, that's just the whole thing. And most people are like, no, but you got to use the rules of the role playing game. You got to use the rules of grammar and storytelling and structure. So I'm all there. But that being said, again, I appreciate each medium as it is. Now, that being said, some mediums I like more than others. Example, RTSs, like real time strategy games. I don't think they translate very well to the tabletop. Um, but that's primarily because I don't find excitement in doing my taxes, i.e., um, grand scale resource control things like that. That's not really my bag. But I know it's the bag of someone. All right. So, yeah, let's see here. Who else is in here? I know we got a few new folks out there. Anybody else got any questions for me? You know, it's like I said, I'm taking a break from 40K. Um, so yeah, that's a big one. Let's take a look at this. It's hard to keep up with the chat because it's going so fast. Let's see. Yeah. Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh. So yeah. Um, but all that being said, like I said, it's really good to take a break from stuff. Um, yeah, it's really good to take a break from stuff and to let the knowledge sink in. Now, I'll tell you so far what my thoughts on 40K are. Um, had I gotten into this game in the 80s when it came out, I would probably be a serious fanatic. Um, Not the kind of fanatic that's really loud on the internet. You know which ones I'm talking about. But the game in and of itself is pretty fun. It's pretty fun. Um, Now, I have this uncanny ability, and I think it's because I grew up poor, of liking stuff as it is. And what does growing up poor have to do with it? Well, it's simple. It's really simple. Um, when I was growing up, there was what we had access to and what we wanted. Now, if we didn't have access to what we wanted, we had to become satisfied with what we could get. All right. I remember um, I was unhappy with the way a GM was playing, was running part of the LARP, and I didn't dig it. And I talked to one of the other players, and he said, "Yeah, I don't like the way she's running the game either, but it's the only game in town." Meaning, if I wanted to play a different LARP, I had to go somewhere else. So it's a matter of this is what's there and find something to enjoy what's there. Growing up poor, I didn't have the option of perfectionism. Okay, I really didn't. Um, and that being said, that put me in a really interesting spot in my adult life, which is my standards are low and I can find fun in whatever I'm doing if I decided that having fun was my purpose. Now, I talk with a lot of my friends, and I always ask them, what's your purpose? What's your purpose in playing? And I have a lot of friends who are critics, okay? Um, I think that's just a side effect of growing up middle class in Los Angeles, where a good amount of my friends aren't happy with anything, you know? Um, they're satisfied with some stuff, but because we grew up the way that we grew up at the time that we grew up with, and I mean in the 1980s in Southern California, there is this big thing, okay, this big thing of, I suppose you can say, tough love. And it's something that I do not engage in. I do not engage in tough love. And what do I mean by that? I mean, this idea, and I've come down on my friends hard about this over the years, of constant critique, constant condemnation, with the unspoken intention on making someone better. Okay? It's overused. It's overused. And what I've seen a lot in Southern California's culture is nothing is ever good enough for anybody. And it's good to have a high standard. But in my eyes and my experience, when your standards are incapable of being met, sometimes it's good to let those standards go. Primarily because I know so many people who are perpetually dissatisfied with stuff. Hey, what's going on, Lapo? Let's see. What do I think about Kaylee Hocannon having a child? Good for her. I don't know who Kaylee Hocannon is. I don't know who that is. Let me take a look. Let me take a look because I've never heard of that person. I don't know who they are. Kaylee Hocannon to me is a taco to a native South African. I just don't know who that is. Um, yeah, let's talk, Professor Google. Let's see here. Uh huh. Uh huh. Is that the right word? Huh. And I guess they left. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, Kaylee Hokanen. Hokanen. Hokan. Yeah. You know what? This is why they do copy paste. Doop. Doop. Copy. Hey, Professor Google. Talk to me here. Who is this person? Elite prospects, hockey player from Finland. Nope. 1989 and 19, or 1880. I don't think that's the real one. Okay. I see one from Instagram, 0 followers. That's weird. Okay, whatever. So yeah. Cool, cool. All right. Anyway, um so yeah. So as I was saying, um so this idea of always finding something wrong. And a lot of my friends have known me to look at them going, I dare you to have fun with this. Like, what is it that you want? Why? I get that there's 100 things that are wrong with it, but we're still spending money on it. We're still spending time on it. So, what is your real purpose in doing this? And that's a really big thing for me. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what a perfect game is. Like, if you sit me down in front of a game and say, hey, let's play, I literally will say, okay, how do we play this game? And I will look for reasons to enjoy it because I spent so much time in my young adulthood being mad at so many things. Okay, and make no mistake, to this day, I'm furious about a lot of things. But I do want to spend my time, especially my time with other people, enjoying myself. And I find it very hard to enjoy myself when the dice mechanics are wrong. I don't like the lore. I should have gotten that. The game's not going the way that I hoped it would. This story isn't all that great. I'm tired of it. You know what I mean? Um, Now, of course, I have my limits like everybody else. Um, and I know for a while people were saying things like, oh, well, Solar just hates. I'm like, I don't. I don't hate musicals. I don't hate cats. I don't do all this stuff. I try not to live in extremes. Okay? But if I sit down to play a game, the way I figure, and this might just be because um I don't know, I grew up in the 80s and I have Teflon and lead poisoning in my brain. um if the thing managed to get published and it managed to make its way to a store, there's got to be something fun about it. And once I start to play, I try and figure out what the intention was. It's like, where is the fun inside this game? How was it written? What's the thing that made it fun? And once I log into that and find something, I can have a lot of fun with that. You know, there is a game, an older board game that I used to joke. I really used to joke about it, and I'd call it the friend ender. Okay, I mean, yeah, sorry, the friend ender. Okay, this thing demolished friendships. It was almost inspiring, if you will. Okay, and that game was called Diplomacy. All right. And the essence of that game was getting what you want without pissing off the other players on the board, but you never had to tell the truth about what you were doing. And that game could get pretty heated between friends and game circles and stuff like that. And I could see where that game is. I believe there's a game called like Super Crush or Super Clash or something that's all about arguing and debating. I hate that game because I hate debate bro tactics. Yeah, super fight. I am way too Socratic when it comes to debating. I'm not about making the other person look stupid. I'm about proving my point. And there are so many debating techniques that literally make me sick to my stomach and make me want to flip tables and throw chairs. So I don't play that game. Eh, you know. But I know that that game is meant for people who enjoy that, you know. And I guess that's like that's my major thing. Um Understanding what the purpose of the game is, i.e., where the fun is supposed to exist, and seeing whether or not that's in my purview. I do not live in a place where whatever it is I have could be better, therefore I demand that it be better. I'm not that guy. I'm really not that guy. Can't be that guy. Never learned how to be that guy because where I come from, and that means the disenfranchised poor sections of Los Angeles, didn't have access to name brands, you know. And I'm dead serious. Like, I was trying to explain to someone a couple of years ago when I was a kid. I really wanted a Trapper Keeper, but there was nowhere to buy one within distance of where I lived. You know, I had Peachy folders, which were these like yellow orange folders with pictures of basketball players on them, and I didn't really like them, you know. But yeah, but when it comes down to it, um, I had to go to school with whatever I could get my hands on. Okay, um, and that counted for clothes, be um, name brand clothes or shoes and stuff like that. That just wasn't me. So, and it wasn't me because I didn't have the option. You know, that was a really, really big thing. Um, so even now as an adult, you know, the shirt that I have might not be a name brand shirt, but it does what a shirt's meant to do, which is keep me from being arrested for indecent exposure and cover up my dad bod. So I put on the stuff to cover up my dad bod, so I won't get arrested. All right, you know, I mean, like seriously, guys, real talk. I think the only name brand clothing that I own is I do have a Christian Dior trench coat, that I've had for like 20 years, and my cargo pants are from Wrangler. That's about it. You know, as far as getting the new pair of Yeezys and stuff, I got no shoe game. I got none of that. Um, well, I'm not. I'm really not. You know, you got Neon over here saying, now I'm expecting you to sing Fortunate Son. No, I'm more an uptight, everything's all right kind of guy. Um, so when I sit down and I play games, and as you guys know, I play lots of games, lots of different games. Of course, there are things from time to time that I could see would improve the game, but I have this terrible, terrible thing. Um, um, I have this terrible condition of thinking that the people who design stuff know what they're doing. Just like I have this thing where I don't judge a movie by its first 10 minutes, but we do live in a world that judges a movie's success on its box office opening, and I'm like, Godfather Part 2 was a sleeper hit. It did terribly its first weekend, its first 3 weekends. But then as time moved on, more and more people start to see it. Then it became, critically acclaimed. And then it became, and then it, swept the Oscars. So you know what I mean on that? Um, so yeah, that's a really big thing. So what I'm seeing in Warhammer 40K so far is that the game itself is fine. It's fine. It's a fine game. Um, it has fun. It puts you in places where dice can tell stories. It is a fun dice game to play. Its lore is hilarious, in my opinion. But understand the definition of satire is an awareness and a critique and a dismantling of a subject. All right. And sometimes it goes there, sometimes it can't. However, I'm definitely not the type of person that says it's this way in this medium, therefore, that is what it's supposed to be across the whole thing all the time, Or more to the point, um, until I create something like a game, which I'm not going to do because I'm not a game designer, but if I had an idea for a game, I would produce that game. Okay. Um, and if the games that I play don't give me what I want, then I don't play those games. But if they give me mostly what I want, I find happiness in what I can get. Okay. And I guess that's just me growing up in a place where scarcity was the number one thing. So I'm kind of happy with that. Um, I do have to say the modeling in Warhammer 40K is genius because there is a level of fun to be had in putting them together, a level of fun to be had in painting them. Like Space Marines are easy to paint, so that gives a lot of immediate gratification. I don't care how many tutorials you watch that add 100 to 200 different steps, since they're concerned about being professional painters that want to win golden demons and all these other awards. If that's your standard, cool, do your thing. That's not my standard, and they paint up pretty quick, pretty easily. I can be like, you know what? Yeah, I can get this. I can get on this. I'm good with that. So yeah, they're pretty fun to paint. They're pretty easy. Tyranids are really awesome looking bug monsters. And I do like painting monsters. I don't care if they're dragons or big snakes or bugs or whatever. So it's kind of fun. It is kind of fun. And I think that the sculptors and designers that they've had their hands on since sculpting has become a 3D digital medium, I think they have very talented people. And they release some good looking models. Now, I talk about the life trap. I talk about a whole bunch of other things. Um, I will put this out there flat out. Games Workshop models look really, really good. But there is room in my life for more than one good thing. And there are levels of good that I have. Like, there are tiers, you know? I love the models from Mantic Games. Okay, I really do. I really like the models from Dead Zone. These little enforcers, the not quite space marines, but other spacemen, I think these things are awesome. And no, they don't have as much detail as Games Workshop, but they're also half the price. And I like that too. um, they got bigger guys that are closer, they're Terminator equivalent or whatever's. But the fact of the matter is, those things are cool. I like the orcs from Mantic Games, like with Dead Zone, Firefight, and God, what is the name of their other game? I forgot what it was. Um, I like I like the orcs from Mantic better than I like the orcs from Games Workshop. No, they are not as detailed, but I like the sculpts better anyhow. It is a personal taste thing. Um, the thing I don't do, and the thing I'm trying to help my friends heal from, is that zero sum thinking that we talked about earlier this week. If A is good, then B has to be crap. No, it's not. Or if B grows, that diminishes A. No, it doesn't. You know, I think about it like food, sweets, just stuff I enjoy. Who here doesn't like pizza? Okay. It's hard not to like pizza because there's so many different types of pizza. All right. I'm not getting involved in that pineapple debate. I think it's dumb. But, but you know, some pizzas are better than others. But I've never had pizza that was flat out bad, as in I can't eat this. Now, granted, I will come up front and say I eat when I'm hungry, and hunger is one of the best spices for any food. Okay? Um, but like since I don't come from a place of abundance, I don't go um Mario's pizza isn't as good as Giuseppe's pizza, so I don't eat Mario's pizza. I don't do that, you know. Um where I live there's like I think within 4 miles, let me check. Mhm. 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 5 different fried chicken places. Now, I don't eat fried chicken. Okay, I can't digest chicken. It's one of the things, so I don't do it. Um, but in the days when I could digest chicken, I liked Church's fine. I liked Popeyes fine. I didn't really like Louisiana because it was too spicy for me in the sense of it burned my mouth because I was a child. Um, and I liked Pioneer fine. They all had different things, like they all had different likable qualities, which made them um, unique. Okay, and that's my big thing. Now, I don't know what happened in the United States where people say the best or nothing. Okay? And that's when I look at people and say, then just fucking starve. I mean, seriously. Um, you know. So that's a really big thing. And when it comes to games and things you do in your hobby, that's the scale that I have. What makes this thing unique? What is something that I can like about this? You know, certain robots from various companies look better than others, and some really talented sculptors out there, and I've really learned this since I started 3D printing. A lot of talented digital sculptors, excuse me, are out there and just can't get work at the big companies. You know, some of them don't live on the same freaking continent. You know, there are some American ones that can't move to Manchester to go for Games Workshop. There's some people in India and China and just a bunch of amazingly talented people all over the world that put up their stuff. Um, just like there's a lot of really talented game designers that don't get their shot, a lot of talented writers that don't get their shot. But there's so many things that I indulge in, that we all indulge in, be it movies, TV, books, comics, tabletop role playing games, tabletop miniatures games, video games, any of that stuff, you know. Um, there's so many avenues to go for any of those individual things that there's always something good about it. So, what I do to keep my peace and to live a life where I smile a lot more is I look to find something to like in all those things. Now, since this is this channel, I can't stand Games Workshop as a company. I despise them. I hate their business practices. I hate what they do to friendly local game stores. I hate what they do with their games. And so far, as you guys know, if you've watched the channel for a while, I've learned two games from Games Workshop, and it makes me hate them more because both games I've played from Games Workshop were fun. Space Hulk was really fun, and it made me want to play Space Hulk more. And of course, they stopped publishing it, and then they republish it for way too much money, and then they stop publishing it, and it's back and forth. And you know, um, I really can't deal with that. I hate that they do that type of thing. 40K is a fun game. Um, Real talk, I still prefer Grimdark Future, but I've been playing Combat Patrol. I've only played two games, but they're fun games. Okay, they're fun games, and their mechanics give you suspense and tension, and you could feel your heart. Your heart starts to increase, and it's a really emotionally engaging game, and I dig that. However, no, Mantic is a great corporation. I really like Mantic as a gaming company. Corvus Bell is all right. Night Models, they really need to get their shipping together. But the games that they publish, like Batman and the DC Universe game, and the one they used to publish, the Marvel Universe game, like really, I like them. Atomic Mass, formerly Fantasy Flight, they're an alright company too, But all of these things have amazing qualities that you can find something to like it. I have never seen, in my 3 decades of gaming, my 4 decades of absorbing media in books, movies, television, I haven't seen anything that is both perfectly done by its rules of craftsmanship and perfectly enjoyable. I've never seen it. Example, Citizen Kane is technically a perfect movie. It's got no plot holes. All the shots are brilliant and all that other stuff. But it doesn't hit me emotionally in the same way Casablanca does. And Casablanca has 2 or 3 things that are wrong with it. But I'm not the person, and I know a lot of people, that will look at the fact that the whole plot of Casablanca revolves around two pieces of paper that do not exist, could never exist. Hang on a second, guys. Ooh, boy. That got loud. Um, yeah. Yeah. In Casablanca, those letters of transit cannot exist. No way. Impossible. Not there. Right? So, interesting. Don't play with me, lighter. Oh, it's because I'm almost out of fluid in this thing. Yeah, those letters of transit could never exist. They just can't. So, guess what? Does that ruin the whole movie? Does that make it make no sense? No, it doesn't. You know, Pulp Fiction is still a good movie, although we never find out what's in the briefcase. That's my point. You know? But with that, I always have to ask the question. It's not that, it's because I'm in front of a fan, guys. Um, yeah, like I said, um, so does what is in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction matter so much that you can't pay attention to the character interaction? No. Does the fact that those letters of transit in Casablanca, um, not ever being able to exist, remove the awesome character interactions and amazing dialogue and gorgeous camera work? No. You know? Um, so it doesn't matter what game you're dealing with, there will probably be a mechanic that you don't like. Okay? I'll tell you, with one page rules, I hate that you have to choose between shooting your gun or stabby stab. Okay? I can't shooty shoot stabby stab. I'm like, why is there no bayonet charging? But there isn't. Does that make the whole game suck? No. It doesn't. Okay? In chess, I don't like that the king can only go one space. Does that make chess suck? No. That's my point. You know, there will always be something that we don't prefer, but that doesn't have to ruin the entire experience unless we're not fully aware of what we're looking for or why we're interacting with the thing that we're interacting with. Okay? And by the way, what's up, old two eyes? Um so I want you guys to think about that. Like I said, taking a break from 40K, but I'll be back a little bit later on today, because today is a chess video game where you're the king piece and your army defected and you have you have a royal shotgun. That sounds fascinating. But yeah, so with that, guys, I gotta say thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. We went a little bit over time, but then we always do. So you can hit me up at backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. You can also hit me up on Twitter at backinthedeck, Instagram at backinthedeck, TikTok at bidpy, that is BIDPY, and of course if you're on Facebook, you can hit me up on Deckers on the Book. So thank you guys for joining me. I guess I'm gonna look this thing up, but I get a bad feeling that the person that popped up asking that question was probably trying to get involved in a real big hot take political conversation that ain't what we do here at Back in the Deck. But just know, if anybody tells you that you can't like what you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, neurospice, or your budget, because anybody who's ever been to a trailer park knows that it's never farther than walking distance from the hood, you can tell them to take those cards and put them back in the deck. I am Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, and tomorrow, I'm going to be taking tomorrow off from our regular time because I have a tech coming down here to help me out with some stuff in the 3D print manufactorum. But I may, keep a look on the social media because I've got a couple of things to do tomorrow that, might be interesting to some of you guys, and I'll be doing the live casting and talking about it on Instagram, probably TikTok, that kind of thing. But until then, I'm Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, and we will see you next time on the dark side of the room.